Hey guys, welcome to the UF Disciple channel. Today we're going to be going over my review of the G.Skill Ripjaws KM780 gaming keyboards, the MX and the RGB versions to be specific. So let's get started. So this is my second video on G.Skill's new gaming peripherals. If you want to watch my review of the Ripjaws MX780 mouse, you can click the card in the top right hand corner to be directed to that video. And I just want to start off this review by giving you my conclusion up front. I love these keyboards. They honestly have everything that I could want in a keyboard, so let's just start off with the list of features that these babies have. And for all intents and purposes, the only area where these two keyboards differ is in the lighting department. The KM780 MX features only red LED lighting, as you see here, while the KM780 RGB features RGB lighting. And also, just to note, the metal rim around the edge of the keyboards on the RGB is black, while on the MX it is a silver color. So for the model of keyboards that I received, they both feature Cherry MX brown switches. Again, with the RGB model having RGB LEDs fitted below the keycap, and the MX edition having red LEDs below the keycaps. Taking a moment to discuss the lighting on the RGB version of the keyboard, it has a wide range of colors, but unfortunately they don't display well in many cases. The brightness on them is okay for a well-lit room, but they don't stand out. And also, depending on what color you select, you can see light bleed on the side of the keycaps. It's most immediately noticeable in the white mode, where there's an awful red bleed on the white coloring, which makes selecting the white color useless. And with my Florida Gators color scheme, I can always notice a pink/purple glow on the side of the keycaps. That keeps this keyboard from looking flawless in RGB mode. Both keyboards feature anti-ghosting and full N-key rollover over USB. The keyboards support up to 3 different gaming profiles with 6 different programmable G keys. Besides the G keys, you'll find a standard keyboard layout along with some helpful extra keys, which include a Windows lock key, an LED brightness adjustment key, a timer key, and then a full media control panel with a volume control wheel, as well as a volume indicator. The keyboards come with a detachable rubber-coated wrist rest, which actually I found to grip my hands quite well during use, as opposed to some other rubber wrist rests that I've tried out. Along the edge of the keyboard, you'll find this metal support brace, which is there to help with these keyboards' incredibly sturdy build, but also to host the container that holds the extra keycaps, which have a more detailed texture to them, and the included keycap puller. And you'll also find this incredibly helpful cable holder, which allows you to control the amount of slack that you have on your mouse. On the back of the keyboard, you'll also find a USB 2.0 pass-through port, as well as audio and microphone pass-throughs. And finally, a BIOS polling switch. And both of the keyboards have this brushed metal design that makes it look just as sturdy as it actually is. Moving on to the software experience, and just like with the MX780 mouse, here's where the entire experience unravels. One of the criticisms I laid against the software in my MX780 review was that it referred to it as the Unified Driver System. And honestly, that is the worst name for their driver system. In fact, it's the exact antonym of what the driver system is. I can slightly forgive the fact that I had to download different utilities for the mouse and for the keyboard, considering they're 2 different types of peripherals. But the fact that I had to download separate utilities for the different keyboards, that's just plain ridiculous. I mean, the only thing different about these keyboards is their LEDs, and I'm sure it wouldn't have been too hard to build a program that disables the lighting profiles on the non-RGB one. It's just a sheer waste of my hard drive space having to download 2 separate utilities. I mean, even at the bottom of the utility, it has these arrow buttons that seem to indicate that you'd be able to choose between different peripherals. But no, it does none of that. Functionality-wise, the software allows programming of each individual key. It allows you to set up macros, adjust the polling rate up to 1000 Hz, choose between 6 key and N key rollover, set the timer modes, the repeat rate acceleration, repeat delay, and sleep mode. On the KM780 MX, for lighting, you can choose between a solid red background light or the lighting effects of reactive, breathing, random, and a snake mode. It's a pretty standard layout with no issues and no frills. I actually had no issues with the software for the KM780 MX. The KM780 RGB software is a different story. Its basic utilities to adjust polling rate and programming the macros are perfectly fine, but the lighting effects, just like the MX780, are completely zonked. Regardless of what lighting I had programmed to the utility, sometimes whenever I would reboot my computer, it would simply not turn on the RGB LEDs. No amount of tinkering the utility would fix this issue either. I just had to reboot my computer and hope that it would work next time. Then I would have the issue of selecting a profile and the keyboard giving me the wrong color scheme. I would choose the default profile and it would give me the orange and blue color scheme. Or if I chose the orange and blue profile, it would give me the default profile colors. The software isn't terribly difficult to set up with various LED profiles with the wave, ripple, reactive, and breathing effects. However, there was barely any guarantee that these scenarios would work. It's honestly the most disappointing part about this keyboard. And to put the icing on the cake to show that G.Skill needs to completely rework their utility, they misspelled cancel when you tried to exit the utility without saving the profile. It seems like G.Skill spent 99% of their time producing the amazing hardware and then realized at the last moment that they needed software to run the whole thing. And then they had to rush to get it out to production so that people wouldn't gripe that there was no software to control the LEDs. But as I stated at the beginning of the video, I love these keyboards. It's definitely not for the software aspect, that's for sure. But G.Skill definitely puts everything most people could want in a keyboard in a sturdy, well-designed, and frankly good-looking package. These keyboards feel like everything about the Corsair K70 RGB and the Strafe RGB keyboards were merged together, and which, by the way, I'll have reviews coming out on those keyboards in the near future. They have the brushed aluminum look and dedicated media controls of the K70, but then also they include the USB pass-through of the Strafe. But they also add analog audio pass-through as well as the volume indicator that you have there. And then they also have this amazing piece of plastic right here that allows you to control the slack on your mouse. I mean, they're just very functional keyboards. And while I'm not entirely sold on the RGB version of this keyboard due to the software issues that I experienced and the light bleed that I saw, I am 100% confident in giving my money to G.Skill for the MX version. And speaking of money, the anticipated pricing of these keyboards in South Africa is 2,199 South African Rand for the MX version and 2,799 Rand for the RGB version, and that's based on current exchange rates. But if you're looking at getting an RGB keyboard for the lighting aspect, and not for the utility features that the Ripjaws KM780 provides, then I'd probably suggest going with the Corsair K70, which has both a better software and LED experience. And with that, I'd like to give a big thanks to Wootware for supplying me with the G.Skill KM780 keyboards to do a review on. Wootware is G.Skill's preferred retailer in South Africa. Their immense selection on a huge variety of well-priced products makes them a no-brainer for your computer needs. But then they also tack on to that a superb customer support team that is one of the most responsive that I've ever experienced. So if you're in South Africa, head on over to wootware.co.za to woot up your peripheral game. And that's it for my review of the KM780 keyboards. Like this video if you found it helpful. Dislike it if it was more disappointing than G.Skill's use of the word unified for their driver system. You can subscribe to stay up to date on my various tech-related videos, including reviews upcoming on the G.Skill SR910 and SV10 gaming headsets. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers!